At 8:44 p.m., I'd like to call this meeting, the Colerain Improvement Corporation, to order. As our director, could you call the roll, please, Jeff?
Yes, sir. President of the board, Unger.
Here.
Board of directors are Greg Insko.
Here.
General Count. Here. Jeff Mills is present. Raj Rajagopal is absent this evening. Emily Randolph.
Here.
And Stephanie Ray.
Here.
Very good. Second item on the agenda this evening is approval of minutes. We'll do that at the regular meeting, which is coming up in just a month. So in July 10th, I believe, is our next regularly scheduled meeting. We have 3 items of new business this evening. The first, and as I mentioned in the...
Excuse me. I'd like to make a motion, if I could, to amend the agenda this evening. I would like to add the citizens' address portion to our CIC meeting this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. There's a motion on the floor for an amendment of the agenda. Is there a second?
I will second it.
Very good. Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and call the roll. Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Insko?
Aye.
Ms. LeCount? Aye. Mr. Mills votes aye. Raj is absent. Ms. Randolph?
Aye.
Ms. Wright?
Aye.
Okay. We've amended the agenda to add citizens' address. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the Community Improvement Corporation Board? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 3, which is new business. We have 3 items of new business this evening. And as I mentioned in the trustee meeting that preceded this meeting, these 3 items correlate to the 3 items that the Board of Trustees just approved minutes ago. They are in reference to a economic development project at the Old Builder's First Source site and the expansion of that site to include the Fireside Motel and the Community Resource Center. This project brings 150 very well-paying jobs and over $10 million worth of investment to a site that has sat vacant for over a decade. It also removes the blight and nuisance that has been created by the Fireside Motel for many years, which has generated hundreds of police runs and EMS runs. This project will also generate additional revenue for the township on the order of $3.2 million over the next 30 years, and it will also create new revenue for the school district to the tune of between $3.5 million and $4.3 million over the next 30 years. I'm going to go through this. Folks that are in the audience have heard me say this just minutes ago, but because this is a separate meeting and it's being recorded separately, I just wanted to go through the process one more time.
Appreciate that.
So where we stand right now is minutes ago, the Board of Trustees authorized the conveyance of the Community Resource Center, which is a building that was owned by the trustees, and they authorized the conveyance of that property to the Community Improvement Corporation. They also approved a resolution that authorizes a loan from the trustees to the Community Improvement Corporation in the amount of $530,000 with the understanding that $130,000 of that will not be repaid. So we will repay the trustees $400,000. And then finally, the trustees minutes ago, Board of Trustees of Colerain Township approved the or authorized the execution of a purchase, sale, and demolition agreement, which provides for the purchase of the Fireside Motel, the demolition of the Fireside Motel and the Community Resource Center, and then the sale of that newly demolished site to Duke Energy. And the way that this works financially is that the township is going to loan the CIC $530,000. We are going to be assigned the purchase contract of the Fireside Motel once it's executed with the owner of the Fireside Motel and a subsidiary of Duke. Then we will execute that contract, pay $430,000 for the Fireside Motel. We will use up to $100,000 to demolish both the Fireside and the Community Resource Center, and then we'll sell the site for $400,000 to Duke Energy. So on balance, and then importantly, we will take the proceeds of that sale and use it to pay off the loan back to the trustees. And so on balance, the township is expending $130,000 to acquire the Fireside property and to demolish the CRC and Fireside. So as I mentioned before, and I'll mention again, this is just a huge shot in the arm for Groesbeck. I believe that this is going to be the catalytic development that changes the trajectory of that neighborhood, and I'm very proud of the project and proud to bring it to your consideration this evening. So there are 3 items on the agenda. The first is a resolution to accept the loan from Colerain Township Board of Trustees. My recommendation is approval. Is there a motion to consider this resolution?
I'll make the motion.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
The resolution 1-18, resolution to accept payment of $530,000 from the Board of Trustees of Colerain Township has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Ray?
Yes, thank you. Since the inception of the CIC back in December of 2013, I'd like to go on record for saying that no one has ever voted no. Everyone on this committee since its beginning has all agreed to everything all the time. And I think that is a real problem, and that's one of the reasons that I requested to be on this board, is that I don't think that everyone agrees all the time, and it makes me wonder why that has happened. So, thank you.
I would like to comment that our Board of Trustees has had numerous split votes, as anybody can see over the last 6 months, and granted that may very well be true what you say, and I know I was on the school board for 8 years and we had numerous split votes, and to vote no for the purpose of voting no is fine. As far as this whole project, one of the other things that I thought about was I believe it's kind of nice to have all those Duke assets and equipment and materials stockpiled on Colerain Avenue. It doesn't happen very often, but I remember 6 years ago when my electric was off for 3 days, and we were down to the end of the list of people who were getting, and you live near me, and I don't know if yours came on any quicker than mine did, but from...
It's an interesting point, Dan. I didn't
from
think
a for lack of a better term, from a civil
Service
defense and a civil... It's kind of a good thing to have all those assets laid up here, right here in Colerain Township, where we might get service at a different time than somebody who's far away from those Duke assets. And I think that's another great reason to have our primary transmission component of utility provider right here in Colerain Township. And as far as the increased taxes this is going to generate, I recall that there's several levies in the history of the school district. Some of those are fixed dollar amount levies, and when that property starts generating a lot more tax revenue than it does now, that kind of takes a little bit of the burden off the rest of us who are contributing to, my school tax on the bill I just paid last week is like $1,011. It might be $1,009 next time around because that property and the other properties around it have increased in value, so they're kicking into that fixed dollar amount levy a little bit more, and it takes a little bit of the burden off the residents. Not much, but $1 here and $1 there, after a while you have a bunch of dollars. So I intend to support this.
Great.
Is there any other?
Yeah, I would just, as the executive director of the organization, I would, and we're different people, Ms. Wright, but I would never want to be in public service for the sole purpose of saying no to something. I do public service because I want to build things, and I want to make the place better. And so I would hope that we would all on the board, I would encourage all of us to have an open mind and ask yourself, is this in the best interest of the township? And when I look at a project that brings 150 great paying jobs and $10 million worth of investment to an area that needs it, what I think that checks all the boxes for me. But that's just me. Is there any other discussion on the topic?
I'll just say, from the day I took office, I was on a warpath of cleaning up Colerain, and these hotels were number one. I mean, number one. This is just a no-brainer, So, to vote no, I don't think makes any sense.
I don't think you're understanding me correctly. I'm not voting no to vote no.
I'm not saying you're voting. I don't know how you're voting, but
no, I was
vote
just
your
making
conscience.
a statement that no one's ever disagreed.
Usually, CICs are simpler agendas. They're not as complicated as a trustee packet or something like that, and they haven't been around forever. And truth be told, before you came on this board, I was a vote away from disbanding the CIC because it was one less thing, to have to worry about, because we really don't use it on we use it on an as needed basis. So I didn't know if the extra meetings were worthwhile or necessary, but it was brought to our attention that clearly you were the most involved. You got a pack. I think your binder's probably that thick by now with all the stuff, and you were more than qualified, and that's why I agreed to put you on the board. So more power to you, but vote your conscience. That would be my best
Absolutely.
advice.
Great. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. Mr. Insco,
Aye.
Ms. LeCount, Mr. Mills votes aye. Mr. Rajagopal, absent. Ms. Randolph,
Aye.
very good. Mr. Unger,
Aye.
thank you, Mr. Unger. Ms. Wright,
Nay.
Ms. Wright votes nay. The measure passes. The next item on the agenda is Resolution 2-18, accepting property from the Board of Trustees. So this resolution is related to the transfer of property from the Board of Township Trustees. We're talking about the Community Resource Center here. So the question before the board is, shall we take ownership of the Community Resource Center for the purpose of this economic development project? The recommendation is to approve the resolution. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion to approve?
And I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Those of you that hear me continually refer to it as Grosbeck Tavern is because that's what it used to be called, probably before you were born.
Was it Van Lunen's before that?
That's over on North
I
End
know,
and
I'm
Westport,
messing.
Greg, and that was before you were born.
That was
So
actually, I remember buying a Nintendo there.
but that's what I'm referring to, and I think that little parcel is going to be an important part of the whole plan. So that's my comment.
I'll just throw it out there. Any chance that Duke's interested in any other property in the surrounding area?
I don't think so.
Okay, just put it out there. Just put it out there.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. Mr. Insco,
Aye.
Ms. LeCount, Mr. Mills votes aye. Mr. Rajagopal is absent. Ms. Randolph
Aye.
votes aye. Ms. Wright,
Nay.
Ms. Wright votes nay. The measure passes.
Jeff?
Oh, Mr. Unger, sorry.
Aye.
Mr. Unger votes aye.
I'm so stealth.
Very good. Measure passes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is Resolution 3-18. This resolution authorizes the executive director to execute a purchase, sale, and demolition agreement with Colerain Township trustees and Duke Energy. This agreement details the transaction of the Fireside from Tri-State Improvement Company to the CIC, and then it outlines our role in the demolition and then subsequent sale to Duke Energy for the $400,000. The recommendation is to approve the resolution, and with that, I'd entertain a motion.
Make the motion.
Okay, Mr. Insco moves. Is
And
there a
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Unger seconds. Very good. Is there any discussion?
The timeline on that to happen?
Yes, so the demolition has to occur by November 30th, 2018, or 60 days following the transfer of property, whichever is later.
So there's some sort of incentive to get this done tonight.
Yes. Yes.
That's 150 days from now. It might take you 30 days to get a demolition permit and another 30 or 60 for any abatement issues. So the thing ought to come down and get cleaned up in a week, but there's a lot of prep time that goes into that. So,
That's right.
okay, that would be my comment.
Very good. All right, is there any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the roll. Mr. Insco?
Aye.
Ms. LeCount? Aye. Mr. Mills votes aye. Mr. Rajagopal is absent. Ms. Randolph?
Aye.
Mr. Randolph votes aye. Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Votes aye. Ms. Wright?
Nay.
Ms. Wright votes nay. Measure is approved. The next item on the agenda is adjournment. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second it.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Let's do this by acclamation. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
I'd like to mention, is there a moment for discussion?
Oh, yeah, there's a moment for discussion,
For
sure.
those in the audience, the earlier part of the trustees meeting, which is different than this board, has been rescheduled as an executive session for Wednesday evening at,
6 p.m.
yeah, and that's the only thing we're doing is have an executive session. There'd be no action taken, but that was moved to tomorrow night so that Mr. Rajagopal could attend.
Yes, sir.
And was there any other discussion?
Yeah, sure. Briefly, we all have these nice fancy name tags, and Stephanie doesn't have one. So if we could order her one, that'd be great, so people know who she is.
Absolutely. All right. Very good. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay.
Did you say nay?
No, I say nay. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.